So now that you guys have learned some of the basics of adding, subtracting fractions, we're going to put it all together. So today's title on your piece of paper is Adding and Subtracting Fractions. Now don't forget, you guys, this is a 5th grade standard, so it's not like you haven't worked on it before. We are just redoing it to make sure you are ready for 7th grade. Okay, so adding and subtracting fractions. Make sure that is your title on your piece of paper. Very, very important. Okay. Next thing we are going to do is we are going to write down the steps to adding and subtracting fractions. This is what you call a VIP, which is a visual processing tool, so that you can see the steps as we go. All right. So step one. For step one, oops, that's too thick. Let me make my pencil a little bit smaller. Okay, so for step one, you guys have already learned how to do this, is list the multiples. Okay, that's really important for you to do. Don't forget you're going to need this for your writing, for your formative check. Okay, so list the multiples. We're going to make this into an arrow. I love to draw, so I didn't say I draw good, I just love to draw. It helps me. Okay, that is our first thing that we are doing, is list the multiples. And you guys know that you're going to use your denominators to list the multiples. Step two is find a common denominator. So we're going to put a CD, because by now you should know what that means, a common denominator. Okay. So that's the second thing that you're going to do, is find a common denominator. You find that multiple that matches. Okay. The next thing we are going to do is something that we did before. And this is, let me get a different color. We, for step three, are going to transform the fractions. So remember when we would change the denominator and the numerator? Okay, that's because you want a common denominator. Okay, so you're going to transform them. Okay, that's the next step. We're transforming them. We're multiplying the top and bottom. Right, so we should be multiplying top and bottom. This is where you multiply. And then there's one last step we are going to work with, which is the most important to the skill that we're learning today. And that is step 4. We are going to add or subtract the numerators, okay, the top numbers, and leave the denominators the same. All right, leave the denominators the same. That is our last step, and we don't need another arrow. We just need to draw a box. Okay, so our step 4 is we add or subtract the numerators, and then we leave the denominators the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and figure out how to do this. Right, so we are going to do a couple of we'll do a couple examples, but honestly, you guys, the easiest way to learn is by doing. Okay, so we're going to do 2 examples. We'll do one with one with adding, one with subtracting. Right, so our first number today is 3/4 minus 1/3, and then our second example today is going to be 2/5 plus 3/7. Okay, so we're going to do our first step, which is list the multiples. So let's go ahead and we find our denominators. Right, here's my denominator here, so those are the multiples that I'm going to list. So let's list them. Okay, we have a 4 and we have a 3. Right, so 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16. It's the same thing that you've learned already. All right, so let's keep going. The next one is 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6. Nothing that matches yet. 3 times 3 is 9. Nope. 3 times 4 is 12. Boom, I got a winner right here. If you see here, my 12s are matching. So that means that I can go ahead and start going to, so I found my common denominator, step 2. So now I'm going to do step 3, which is transform the fractions to a common denominator. Okay, that is what I want to do, is transform these to a common denominator. All right, so let's do this. So for my 4, I have to multiply times 3. So 4 times 3, and don't forget to do the same thing to the numerator. For my 3, I have to multiply 1, 2, 3 times 4. Here we go, times 4. All right, let's finish this up. So, in fact, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to move it over here because we will use that later. I need some more room. Okay, so now let's finish this up. Okay, so we have our new problem. For my top, right here, 3 times 3 is 9. For my denominator, 4 times 3 is 12. For my numerator up here, 1 times 4 is 4. And for my denominator, it's 12. So we went ahead and you notice here they're twins. So we did what we're supposed to do by transforming them so they could have a common denominator. So the last thing is that step 4 just says that we add or subtract, and then we leave the denominator. Okay, that's easy. So we are going to subtract these numbers, and then we'll leave these numbers the same. The denominator is the same. Okay, so 9 take away 4, 9 minus 4 is 5. And then we just leave the bottoms the same. So the only thing we're actually messing with are these two top numbers. So my answer is 5 over 12. All right, let's try one more with this new problem. So the first thing I'm going to do, step 1 says list the multiples of these two numbers. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We have 5 and 7. 5 times 1 is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Let's stop there. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 3 is 21. Nothing yet. 7 times 4 is 28. And 7 times 5 is 35. Okay, let's keep going up here. 25, 30, 35. Okay, obviously we found a match, you guys. It's 35. So let's see what we're going to multiply by. So for my 5, I need to multiply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need to multiply this times 7. Numerator and denominator. For my 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to multiply it times 5. Okay, so now let's make our new problem. I have a fraction, a plus, and another fraction. Okay, so for this first one, 2 times 7 is 14. And 5 times 7 is 35. And then 3 times 5 is 15. And 7 times 5 is 35. All right, so we transform them with a common denominator. You notice that these are the same, so that's exactly what we were supposed to do. Lastly, we need to add or subtract. In this case, we are adding, okay? So 14 plus 15 is 29. And then it says on step 4, just leave these the same, so we just leave it 35, okay? The last thing we need to do is, if what we learned on Monday, if we need to simplify. And in this case, we don't need to, but if you need to, this is an if. You can add this to step 5. Okay, you can add it as step 5. I'm not sure, or you don't always have to do this, depending on which one. So you would simplify. In this case, we can't simplify anything, so we're going to leave it.